Welcome to First and Four, the podcast where a father and his firstborn son break down America's biggest four sports: football, basketball, baseball, and hockey. From hot takes to generational debates, we're bringing it to you one play at a time. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
First and four. You know the name.
All right, so just jumping right in. I want to start off with some introductions, just who we are, the purpose of the show, kind of why we're starting, and give everybody a little bit of a backstory. So let's just start there.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. You want to go?
Yeah, I'll do the intro first, I guess. So I'm the father. I'm the father of David. So he's my firstborn. And like you said, we want to talk about the four big sports here in the U.S. So football, basketball, baseball, hockey. We'll probably have topics around a lot of those and then some various other things we'll kind of sprinkle in here. But yeah, I grew up loving sports. I'm the fifth of six kids, just had one older brother. He kind of pushed me really to be the competitive nature. And, having an older brother, you always want to beat the older brother. And so I think he kind of pushed me, growing up. And we had sports all around us as we were kids. Started out playing tennis, soccer, pretty much anything and everything. And I was fortunate enough to have a block of kids, the circle we lived in. Lots of boys, and so we got to play all the sports and get outside. That's what kids did back in the 80s. We played outside a lot. We didn't sit around inside playing video games and things like that. We had video games, but most of the time we were outside playing some sports. So shout out to the Meyer boys, the Gooderches. That's what we were doing. And a lot of the kids I was playing with were bigger, older. Like I said, I had the older brother. So really kind of pushed me to push myself. And yeah, and so that's really kind of what got me into sports, and obviously now carrying that on down to my own kids that I've got now too. So
Well, yeah, and I'd say that's where I've gotten my love of sports from too. It's just from seeing how much you enjoyed it and watching sports with you growing up. I think especially football, but all the other ones too: basketball, baseball, hockey. Just found a love for uh, sitting and watching sports. It's just such a great pastime. You can sit with friends, family, just anybody, bond over it, and there's rules that are always changing. There's always new things. You just never know what's going to happen. And I think it's just one of the things that sports brings that nothing else, as far as the media goes, truly can bring the way that sports does. And it's just really special. And so, yeah, that's, I think, what I love about sports. And, I mentioned watching. I think I'm more of the watching sports as opposed to playing them. I'll play them out for fun, but not necessarily um, on the
yeah,
competitive side. But that's okay.
that's
They're still
okay.
fun.
I think that's what's cool about sports, like, right? Everybody can kind of get involved, and yeah, whether you love to watch them, you love to play them, you love to coach them. I mean, there's all routes and avenues you can get involved with sports. So, and like you said, I think it brings everybody together, right? As a country, it doesn't matter what's going on in the country. Things could be dividing and whatever. I think back to like 9/11, and you have all these crazy things going on, and I feel like sports kind of brought everybody back together then. And that's what happens as things go crazy. Sports kind of brings everybody back in together, and it's cool to have the rivalries and everything else. I think to compete. So yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Again, just togetherness, everything about sports. I love it.
yep,
Yeah, so I think let's get into kind of the purpose of our, or not purpose, but just the outline of our show. And as we kind of go through today, since it's more of a first episode, we'll kind of explain what each of our segments is, and then we'll be able to come back to them each time, which will be really awesome. So first, what we're going to jump into is moving the chains, and this will be something kind of different each time. Today, we're going to rank the four major sports that we keep mentioning, based on how we feel about them. So let's just get started into that. I'll take first on this one. So I think for me, again, I think this podcast and a lot of what we talk about is watching. So that's kind of more the way I'm thinking about it personally. I think this is, for the viewer, as far as sports go. And so for me, that puts football first, which I think is a common answer. Maybe some people feel like it's a cop out answer, but to me, football is
It-
the best. It's the most fun to watch. It's as far as America goes, the most universal, you might say, and
Yeah.
everybody can sit and watch. And so, I think football is a great number one. And then after that, I think it kind of blurs. To me, I've gone back and forth as far as what I want to do next year. I just, yeah, I'm thinking. I think I'm gonna go baseball. I just think with
America's
baseball,
pastime, huh?
yeah, exactly. And you just get there's something about being able to sit and watch baseball in the summer, which obviously it's a time where we have better things to be doing than sitting and watching sports sometimes. But I don't know, something about baseball. Of the sports, it seems like the least things change, and I don't know. I just enjoy watching. And then basketball, I think for me is three, which is more so because we've seen kind of the evolution of the NBA where it's a lot of 3-point shooting and not as much defense. So for me, college basketball is a lot more exciting. But just kind of the direction basketball is headed kind of knocks it down for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me, basketball's three and the hockey's four. Just not one that I ever super got into. I'll sit down and watch a hockey game occasionally. But for us, we're Blackhawks fans. We like all the Chicago sports, and we just get them blacked out a lot. So I don't have as much of a reason to sit down and watch hockey except for the playoffs. So
Yeah.
I think that factors into it too. But
Your uncle's not gonna like that take with the hockey
four.
being the
Oh
last.
no, I
Yeah,
know, I know.
He's gonna give you grief about that one. But yeah, I think that's tough. I would kind of agree with you there. Number one is kind of clear for me as well. I didn't mention in the bio as we were kind of going through, but I did walk on and played football in college, and so yeah, I think football is probably my favorite, whether it's playing or watching or whatever. Like you said, there's just something about football, and I don't know if it's like every game really matters. And you look at college football and pro football, and there's no slipping up, right? And if you slip up too many times, you're not going to make it into the playoffs. You're not going to make it into whatever it is postseason wise. So, uh, there's always something with football to be interested in. Where I feel like some of the other sports, maybe there's so many games that if you slip up here and there, it's not as big of a deal. So for me, football, number one, a big number one for me, kind of stands out. I think number two is tough. You talked about baseball, I think was number two, and there's no way I'd go baseball that high. But uh, you know, basketball for me is probably number two. Now, if we're ranking pro sports, basketball is probably number four. Honestly, I could not tell you the last time I watched an NBA basketball game all the way through. Growing up in the '90s, obviously you got Michael Jordan and the Bulls and whatever incredible run. And you mentioned being Chicago fans, for everything here. That was just an incredible time to be watching basketball. And so I think love of the game. I really kind of gained through that experience watching Jordan play and all those championships, winning 6 of them in the '90s, and then myself playing basketball and coaching now. I love coaching. Love seeing kids develop and just get better and better. And I feel like basketball is one of those sports where kids can really work at it and improve. They can do it on their own, right? You don't necessarily have to have other people around. You can always make improvements in football. So I love to see, or excuse me, basketball. So I love to see that as well. Third for me is going to be hockey, though. I know you had that down at the bottom. I'm going to put baseball down at the bottom for me. But hockey, I tell you what, the hockey playoffs, the NHL playoffs, there is nothing like it. And I know the NFL playoffs are great, but I feel like hockey is just like wide open every single year. Like you get to the playoffs, and there's nothing like watching NHL playoffs. And I think last year, especially too, is you had the what was it that all the countries were playing between the
yeah, the
U.S. and
Four
Canada?
Nations.
4 Nations, yeah.
Yourself.
4 Nations. When you get all those rivalries, and you got the Winter Olympics coming up here pretty soon with hockey, passions are running hot when you've got all these different countries and things. And so for me, I put hockey 3. Again, I think growing up in the '90s, you got the Mighty Ducks. You've got some things that we played as kids and playing street hockey and whatever. That was always really fun for me. And obviously, my brother's playing hockey now too, as an old man playing in the beer league. But baseball for me, I put it at 4. I just never got into baseball. It just,
Yeah.
I don't know, a little boring for me. Just my personal, playing it didn't move fast enough, and I feel like it's kind of the same today with the game. Watched it. I agree with you though. If you had to rank the pro sports, it'd probably be 3. Basketball for me would be 4, only because to your point, I think during the summer it is nice to have something there, and I do think playoff baseball is fun. I do think coming around to September, October, when you get into October, especially if your team's in it, that's pretty fun and it's exciting postseason in baseball. So if we were talking pro sports, I'd probably bump it up above basketball, to be honest with you. But for me playing it, and if I had to rank all the sports together, it goes to the bottom of the list for me.
Yeah. I think it's definitely some different lists. And what I think the way I look at baseball, kind of thinking through, is maybe it's the fact that it's not football season
Yeah,
that puts it at 2 for me, because I just think I watch it more than I watch, say, the NBA
yeah.
again, where again, the NBA just not my favorite. And so I think I just watch more baseball.
I would say, even in the playoff baseball, it is football season. But when you've
Yeah.
got the weeknight games in baseball, playoff baseball, to kind of fill the gap between the football, the football week
Yep.
before football goes crazy, playing pretty much every day when you get the action and everything, like you've got playoff baseball. And so I do like that it kind of fills in the gap there in playoff season as well.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I think there's a lot of ways to look at it. And I think that just, our difference in age and different generations, I think brings up some differences there. And I think that's something we'll keep seeing, which is
Yeah.
great.
It's interesting. I would say it may be a surprise for some people. I think there's a lot of older people who really kind of stick to baseball as one of their top sports. I'm not one of those guys, but I do think it is kind of a, like I said, pastime, whatever, kind of older generational thing. One debate we may get into at some point is just the rule changes. You talked a little bit about it. Things in baseball kind of stay the same, but I wonder if that just gets stale and dry, and do things need to mix up a little bit? I don't know. It is kind of that pastime. Some people hang on to that it is a good thing. It may be good for one half. Is it good for another half? I don't know. That's the maybe a debate we have sometime too.
Yeah.
So
Let's keep that one in mind. I think
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next segment we'll move into now is going to be called 2 Minutes in the Box. And this one, each of us, each show that we come out with is just going to be something that we want to call out, something that's going on in sports, along those lines, where we want to kind of just bring it to attention and, call out the media, call out a player, call out something going on in sports, put them in the box, just like a hockey penalty. And so that's what we're going to get into next. You want to start this one off since I started the last one?
yeah, I'll kick this one off. So my what I want to put in the box, I think what I'll call this one the Gen Z kids, are kind of the way that their development has been, and I'm going to reference, I guess, a little more kind of into the transfer portal. But I saw an article the other day I thought was kind of crazy, talking about the development of kids and the differences like video games have made on kids. So I thought this was interesting. I've got some notes here, but kids in the '90s developed a little different mental wiring than like kids today. Based on like some of the video games we played, there's no auto saves. Weren't a lot of hints, no endless rewards. You got 3 lives, that was it, right? And you got to pass the controller over to somebody else at that point. There's no, you're not going on and on and on. You fail, you restart, you endure. Some of those things you got to memorize patterns. You think of like Zelda and all those other things you play. Like, yeah, you got to figure it out on your own. Where nowadays there's no turning things off. It's autosave. There's all these loot boxes, constant rewards. Triggering kids to just keep going and going and going. And there's not really like that failure where you end and you got to come back to it and figure it out, right? I feel like that's kind of the way, to me, the transfer portal has been here, where like kids don't. I don't know if that's some of that development, but now it's like so easy to just hop in the portal, go to somewhere else, and not work through that adversity. I think back to like Tom Brady, who's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. back in the 90s. And, he had to struggle and fight for his starting job there at Michigan. Obviously drafted 6th round. Everybody knows that, into the NFL, and had to, work into the starting role there in New England when he got there behind Bledsoe. If he wouldn't have had that experience, would he be the quarterback that he is today? Right. If he could have just jumped somewhere else, just got another starting job and not really had that adversity to work through, I don't think he becomes the quarterback that he is. Right. And so that's where I feel like I got to put Gen Z in the box here, man. They got to toughen up a little bit on, some of the wiring. Got to rewire some of this and get that figured out before we go way off the rails. We may miss out on some generational talents if we don't. So,
Hey, and that's me, which isn't, I don't know, I don't love, obviously being part of that generation. I'm hoping that it's not so much of an issue that, we come out not as great on the other end. But I definitely get what you're saying too, with just, again, you mentioned players can just go anywhere in the portal and there's no rules. It's like the Wild West.
mhm.
And, at what point does that get too far? But yeah, it just, something's different about it. The fact that you can just go and do whatever you want.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot to be said for working through adversity, right?
Yeah,
And that's
I agree.
part of sports, right? I think that's what people love about sports, is seeing people work through adversity, people overcome things. Like, that's the excitement to me of like sports, and seeing underdogs, right? People love the underdog story. There's one I don't really appreciate right now with Indiana, but you know, underdog stories are fun for sports, and when you've got that, I think it really kind of draws people in. Some of this transfer portal stuff, you kind of lose that underdog story as well. So I don't know. I think there may
Yeah.
be some
When
improvements
you
there.
think even just in college football, with, you like there to be a quarterback that starts somewhere and you watch him go from, the backup to,
Yeah.
a couple years in, he'd be maybe starting but not doing so great, to, full time top tier competitive quarterback. And, again, we just don't see that anymore, because they'll, if they're not starting and they want to be after a year, then they'll, transfer down to a lower level, play it well there, and then transfer up. And it's just, you go wherever you get the most money and get what's best.
Yeah. I
So,
agree. Yeah.
okay. My 2 minutes in the box is old NFL coaches. That's who I want to put in the box. This NFL playoffs has really brought, a lot of new faces. You think of the Chicago Bears, Jacksonville Jaguars, with new coaches. Vrabel is new in New England. So many new things, which, again, as you kind of mentioned, is exciting for sports. But over in the NFC, the oldest head coach is Matt LaFleur at 46. And we just
Not
saw him
anymore.
last. Well, yeah, I guess
Not
we'll
anymore
see.
in the
We'll see what
playoffs.
happens there. Not in
Yeah.
the playoffs anymore, but and I think that just goes to show, again, some of these younger minded offensive guru kind of guys are what teams are looking for, what they're going for, and who are having the most success. So guys like, Ben Johnson, who's still in there, Sean McVay, all these guys. It seems like people are getting younger, and you think on the old end, a guy like Pete Carroll, he's been fired twice in 3 years.
Yeah.
So it almost seems like things are passing him by. And coaches are only getting younger and younger. I think of that year that one of the years the Rams, I want to say it was that first year with Stafford, where they went all in. They went and won the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
And they still had Witt on the O-line. He was older than McVay, and
Yeah.
that was like a huge deal. They were talking about McVay was this young guy, and we just don't even hear about it anymore, because so are all these other guys teams
Yeah.
are hiring.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, though, maybe it's not even just the young coaches. I appreciate you putting the old guys in the box, but I think that there's also old coaches. It's all about making changes too. So I think you got to be able to adjust to styles. So you think of Andy Reid, like, he's not young, right? But he's able to adjust and transform from week to week, or whoever they're playing, right? They're making the adjustments. Same with, obviously, Bill Belichick in college now, but when Belichick was having success with the Patriots, like, that was the big thing with them. They could transform and change from week to week, season to season, depending on what they needed. They could make that adjustment and change. And I think that's the big key for the older coaches. Like, you can't stick with what's worked for you in the past. You got to change. You got to modify. You got to get up with the times. And so maybe it's younger coaches being able to change a little more, where like Pete Carroll may be stuck in his ways, not adjusting to the times and doing the things he needs to do. He's bringing Geno Smith down with him. Like, maybe not the best thing. Maybe they need to start fresh or whatever, something different. But same old obviously isn't working for him.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just something about these young guys.
Yeah.
So old guys, that's what I'm putting in the box.
Okay, I see how it is. Yeah.
Whatever.
good.
On to the next segment that we've got here is called Film Room. So this is where we're just gonna recap a game that we just saw that we enjoyed, that we think not necessarily isn't getting enough attention, but just we want to give some more attention to, and we think would just be fun to talk about for a few minutes. So for us this week, we mentioned Chicago. Promise we won't be, necessarily Chicago biased every week, but I think it'd be great to highlight the Bears. Fantastic game that we watched Saturday night, where they were down 18, looked like everything was just falling apart, like it was over. Crashing back down to earth, same old Bears, whatever you want to say. And they yet again found a way to win. And it was amazing. Again, it was backs up against the wall going into halftime. But it almost felt like, Bears fans didn't really think it was over, which is something different.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, oh yeah, this is more of a second half team. Usually they figure it out, and sure enough, they did. What were some of your highlights of that game? Some of your favorite plays?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the comeback was huge. I was a little concerned first half with Ben Johnson. You talk about these younger coaches and going for it all the time on fourth down. I was a little concerned with how often they were going for it in their own territory. And I thought, man, is this going to end up like the Lions did last year, where they were just constantly going for it and they, go out first round of the playoffs to the Commanders? And I thought, is this going to happen to the Bears now that they're going to be pushing and pushing and pushing? They flipped it around that second half, and great plays. I think what kind of stood out to me, it seemed like Caleb Williams really was getting out of the pocket a little bit more in the second half, able to roll out and get a little more comfortable in the offense. I also think Green Bay, like LaFleur passed, I think, what did I see? The stat, it was like 31 pass attempts in the second half and 7 rush attempts. I mean, like, you got a 18-point lead, and I know I get like trying to still be aggressive, but like things weren't working. They weren't even able to run the ball. The Bears were getting more pressure up front. I think the Bears went more zone in the second half. They had to run a little more man-to-man in the first half. They dropped back a little more zone, got 5 guys, got a little more pressure on Love. And that really kind of stood out to me as the game changer, right? When the Bears defense started stepping up there, making those plays, the offense settling in. Obviously, Ben Johnson's going to make some adjustments at halftime and get them rolling. Incredible. It's hard to pinpoint like one thing that really stands out because that whole second half was like, oh my gosh, are they going to do this again? Like you said, this season's been like a roller coaster, cardiac Bears game to game. Here we are again, first round of the playoffs. You got the Packers at home. Man, here we go again. That was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many more times it can happen. And you mentioned, just the defense stepping up. I definitely think the pass rush was a big part of the comeback. Montez Sweat, Austin Booker both came up big with some plays. And, as you mentioned, the way LaFleur was coaching played right into that, which I thought was interesting because the Bears' run defense, to be honest, isn't great.
No.
Especially when you got Josh Jacobs on the other side of the ball. So, yeah, I don't know. Again, not complaining about it.
What was your favorite? I guess what kind of stood out to you from a play standpoint? Was there anything that really kind of stood out?
I mean, I think the play you're going to hear everybody talk about is the 4th and 8, basically season on the line with about 5 minutes left in the fourth. And Caleb hits Rome Odunze down the field with neither of his feet on the ground.
Yeah.
It's like an all-time pass. I don't know how we got that down there.
Oh, yeah.
That was a crazy play, but I don't know. I think of just, again, you mentioned it was kind of a team effort almost, just some of the collective, like, smaller things that stacked on top. They started running the ball better in the second half for sure. Monangai and Swift both stepped up. They were finding the holes. The offensive line as a whole, stepped up too. even with Trippier getting hurt.
Yeah.
There at the end, which sucked, but it seemed like everything again was just kind of coming together. Really a team effort.
Yeah, I can tell the change in culture that Ben Johnson's made in the locker room. Those guys are always believing, right? Like they head into halftime down 21-3. They came out and they never had a doubt, right, that they weren't going to compete and be right in that game all the way to the end and finish the job. So I really think what a great job stepping in there. And I think he's got Caleb Williams believing too, where, there are a lot of doubts for Caleb Williams heading into the season. I think even the first part of the season, they weren't quite connecting and clicking real well.
Yeah, they got killed by the Lions.
Yeah. And you can tell the change in Caleb over the latter half of the season, where his confidence is up. Again, I think Ben kind of figured out how to use him well and effectively as well. And the run game got going. I think that's a big thing too. You look at Detroit; they always had kind of the two backs going there, Thunder and Lightning, or what do they call them, Sonic and what's the other? Why can't I think of my Sonic?
Why
the Hedgehog
can't I
reference?
either?
Sonic and Knuckles.
There you go. Anyhow, so get those guys going. But you got Monungai, you got Swift, and I think once he started using those guys more effectively too, and just figuring out how the offense was going to work. Again, I think it gives Caleb more confidence. The offensive line also really stepped up. Like you said, it's a whole team thing. It's the culture in the locker room. These guys are always believing in themselves, and yeah, I mean, we're going to have another cardiac arrest here this week with the Bears and the Rams, but I don't know if I can take many more of these old guys.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That was pretty awesome. Definitely a classic for sure.
Yeah. So they'll be moving on next week, playing the Rams, and then next round, which is crazy to say.
Yeah. I never thought the Bears would be winning the NFC North this season. I mean, if you told me that heading into the season they'd win the North, beat the Packers first round of the playoffs, like, sign me up, right?
Right.
And we'll see what happens next weekend. They're going to be underdogs. I think they're already 4.5 point underdogs against the Rams. It's going to be tough, but they're coming to Soldier Field. It's going to be cold. They're a dome team. You never know. I mean, how these things are going to play out. I think I saw a stat that the dome teams are like, in the last, I don't know, 6, 10, something like that, on the road and playing in cold weather. So there's a lot to be said.
I don't think Stafford's ever won
outdoors.
Was it a stat?
Maybe that's what it was. There's
a stat.
He doesn't play well outdoors, and I think he hurt his hand the other day too. So they may have some injuries. Think about Puka Nacua. Obviously, he's had a great season, but how's he going to be receiving the ball? It's 5-10 degrees at Soldier Field, the wind whipping around. They're going to have to get their ground game going, which isn't a strength for the Bears as their defense, but obviously the Rams really want to get the ball downfield, pushing it with Stafford and Nacua and those guys. So
yeah. We'll just see. I think I'm happy with the 1 win, but
I agree.
If they want to keep winning, that's fine too.
Beat the Packers, so I'm happy with that. So
okay, moving on then. The next thing I want to get into is the 2-minute drill. Basically, I'm just gonna have one question for each of the 4 major sports. We're just gonna go real quick. Again, the idea is 2 minutes, ish, that this segment will kind of take. So we'll just rattle off each question, kind of give an answer to it, and not leave a whole lot of room or time, I guess, for debate, for arguments. I think this can kind of just give us some ideas for future episodes, and just again show the difference as far as the generations, where I might have some different ideas than you do as far as some of these sports go, just because we've both seen very different things. So, all right, getting right into it then. With football, you need one more drive to win. Who do you want at QB from any era?
This one's a little bit tough, but I'm going to go with John Elway, because he has the drive named after him for a reason. And the guy not only could pass the ball, he could run the ball. I was thinking about maybe Brady could be this one, but it's got to be Elway. He can run the ball too. So I'm going John Elway.
I actually was going to say Brady, so there you go. I guess I didn't watch John Elway, so there you go.
There you
But
go.
to me, just watching Brady as I was growing up, he just always seemed to have an answer, have a way to win, and always just seemed so calm and collected. So
Hmm.
that's why I'm going with Brady there. Basketball, last shot of the game. Who's taking it?
It's Michael Jordan. I mean, there's no other answer. It's Michael Jordan.
I'm going Jordan too. I mean, I think yeah,
Yeah,
greatest,
it's
just
got to be
clutch, has that in him.
Yeah.
Baseball, bottom of the ninth, game 7. Who do you want, a power hitter or a contact hitter?
I like contact. I want to get the ball in play. Make sure that I get, and I think some of this might be situational too. Like, what do I need? But to me, make contact, get on base, get whatever is needed to win the game. I'm going contact.
Yeah, I actually agree. I'd rather have the contact, just get a guy on base, get in scoring position. Maybe like you said, situational. Maybe there's another guy out there, but yeah, I think contact as well.
Yeah.
And then hockey, game on the line. Are you trusting your goalie or your best scorer? So, who do you trust more? Where do you want the puck?
I think I like my goalie. I think if I had to choose over the goalie or scorer, especially if I'm thinking playoff time, you want that goalie that's standing on his head. You want the guy that's going to step up and make the save. Defense wins championships, so give me the goalie.
Yeah. This one's harder for me again. I don't watch quite as much hockey. But I think I'm going to go goalie as well. I just think that the goalie is such a cornerstone and foundation of a hockey team where um if the game is on the line, you're thinking a goalie's been in that situation before, having played goalie all, kind of going up. And so I think that he probably knows what's going on in that situation. He's practiced for it, he's ready. So I think give me the goalie as well.
Yeah. All right. We
All right.
agree.
There we go. Yeah, we agreed on
that's
a
several
good
of
amount of
yeah,
those.
we did.
Yeah, I guess we'll see if that continues. Maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily, but that's all right. Okay, we're getting towards the end here. And so a segment we want to add in is called Extra Innings. Just to call back to baseball, where we're just going to review anything that we want to circle back to, any ideas we had, anything we've come up with while we're talking, just circle back to before we close out the show. So do you have anything?
I was thinking about, I mentioned earlier when we were talking about hockey and why I like hockey, mentioned about the Olympics. And I said, no, yeah, Winter Olympics, like, I don't feel like there's been a lot out there on the Winter Olympics already so far. And it's like, what were we 3-4 weeks out or whatever on the Olympics here? So I think that's kind of interesting. I feel like it's a big, it's every 4 years you got the Winter Olympics. Obviously, the summer comes around every 4 also. So every 2 years we've got the Olympics. I feel like as a country we get more hyped up for the Summer Olympics maybe than we do winter. But I think it's going to be pretty exciting, especially as we saw the Four Nations last year, Canada and U.S. hockey. Finland's really good too. You're going to see a lot there. I want to get excited for it. Maybe it's because football season's not done yet, but we got Winter Olympics coming right up around the corner here, and I feel like it's not really even getting talked about. So I don't know. I was thinking about that as we were talking earlier. Like, nobody's really talking about the Olympics a whole lot. A few commercials here and there, see on NBC, but I feel like there's a lot more we could talk about for the Olympics too.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just feel like we haven't really heard anything. I see the occasional thing about Michaela Schifrin like winning something else, which
Yeah.
is to be expected, or the occasional maybe something. I feel like we heard about hockey at one point. The NHL was talking about some things with their players, but like, yeah, overall not much. And I think what's awesome about the Winter Olympics that we're probably going to realize is it's right around the time football season ends. So again, I think for me, my kind of like mental clock is a lot based on football and when that season's going on, and right around when the Super Bowl is, we're going to get the Winter Olympics, and that's going to be another thing to watch. So that'll be really exciting.
Yeah.
And I just enjoy listening to Mike Tirico on NBC on the Olympics. He's always great.
He's great.
Yeah. I actually was thinking something that came out today that I just thought I'd mention. You're from Nebraska. It's a school I enjoy rooting for. Dylan Raiola today committed to Oregon, which was something I'd kind of heard rumblings of. I kind of figured that's where he was going. I just thought I'd call that out. He's going to be wearing green which is different for him. Not of color Mahomes wears.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see how that goes for him. But
Let's hope that
Yeah,
doesn't mean
Raiola.
Mahomes is going to the Packers or whatever.
I don't know. Is that what happens now?
I don't know. Yeah, they flip that around. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does out there. So is he going to be the starter? Who's their?
So they were talking about that. Dante Moore hasn't said for sure, I guess, if he's coming out.
Yeah. Okay.
So they actually already said if Dante Moore stays, Dante Moore will be the starter for 2026, and Raiola will back him up.
Yeah.
With the expectation he'd be the starter in 27. So it just depends.
Dante Moore's got to decide if he wants to go to the Jets. Is that the?
Yeah, I guess because he can kind of pull a. I don't know, guys. Maybe I'll stay another year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Raiola was really touted coming out, obviously of high school. Yeah, he good athlete. I'm not sure he's panned out as well at Nebraska as maybe they expected. There's a lot of high expectations there in Nebraska that haven't really been fulfilled over the past 20 years. Yeah, I mean 20 plus years. So it'll be interesting to see. Oregon's got to get over the hump too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they're a national title contender every year, but they're not. They're not getting there, right? They're not able to get over that hump. I feel like they're kind of like in that Penn State where, Penn State had a great team coming into the year and they don't finish the job. I was saying Franklin gets fired and whatever. Like Dan Lanning's not on the hot seat by any means, but like at some point, Oregon's got to overcome that and get over the hump here.
Yeah, I actually was thinking the same thing the other day, where it's at what point does it become Dan Lanning can't win the big game, just like James Franklin, and then you start hearing rumblings of new coach.
Yeah,
which is crazy to think, but last year they got blown out by Ohio State, who had just lost to Michigan, and this year they got blown out by Indiana, and you expect to be contending. Going out like that isn't exactly what people consider contending when they're watching. So
yeah, maybe the old guys today leading these places don't like going through adversity with the coaches too, and they're like, quick decisions to make and get the next guy in.
That's what happens. You get all the money sitting there.
That's true too. Yeah.
So we'll see about Raiola again. You mentioned highly touted. Definitely had a struggling O-line to play behind, which was ironic since it was his uncle that coached the O-line. But we'll see what happens. See what happens.
Very cool.
Okay. Final thing before we kind of end off here is a scoreboard. So I kind of just want to recap where we agreed, where we disagreed, kind of some of the big ideas of the show. So as far as agreeing, we both, for the most part, our sports were actually, or I guess they weren't necessarily all similar, but we both agreed that football was first.
Yeah.
And then after that, not so much.
2 through 4, yeah. we kind of differed.
Yeah, we disagreed after that. But and then I think as far as the transfer portal, we definitely agreed. People aren't as focused; they're leaving. But then with the NFL coaches, it seemed like maybe I sided with the younger guys a little more than you did.
Yeah.
And then again, the 2-minute drill, I actually didn't expect to agree quite as much, but except for the football about one drive to win, where you said Elway, I said Brady. We actually agreed on the rest of them.
Yeah.
Baseball through hockey, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then our conversations we just had, again, I think similar ideas. A lot of agreeing today.
We got to start disagreeing.
I know we do. This isn't going to work out. Yeah, I don't know. Any final thoughts?
No, it's fun doing this, man. I appreciate you inviting me in to do this with you. I'm excited to keep it going. I know this is a big passion for you, obviously, to get into sports broadcasting, sports communications, and so I'm excited to kind of go alongside you here and go on this journey with you and have some fun. Like you said, maybe we got to get a little more disagreement going. So we'll find some generational things to maybe disagree on.
Something.
And there's plenty out there that we can disagree on. Maybe you're an old soul at heart. Maybe that's what it is.
That's true. Maybe I just take after you a little bit. I don't know.
That's
all right.
It is.
I think that's all we've got then, guys. So that's going to do it today for the Drive on First and 4. If you like today's conversation, make sure to follow, rate, and share our show. We'll be back next time breaking down the biggest stories and our generational opinions from the 4 major sports. Until then, we'll see you for the next play. Goodbye, guys.
Peace out.